Be gone, ice giant, and prepare yourself, for we will return.
All right. Welcome to Aska. This is not the first time I have played this game. In fact, I've played it many a times now. And the one thing I have noticed is that each time I do, I get quicker and quicker at building a civilization. And rather than 20 villages, we will see if we can reach 40 by the start of winter. It should be possible. All we'll need is a lot of shelters and even more Jotun stones. We will need the ability for our Vikings to provide for themselves, to craft their own clothes and other materials, and above all, we will need an iron mine. And to build our village very close to it. For now, though, the first thing to occur is exploration. One thing to be aware of is a lot of thatch is needed in this game, so either you build very close to the shore, or you make sure you gather all the seeds and plant them into the farm from the very get-go. The second thing, and really the first thing that you need a lot of, is flax. So this would also occupy the farmland. And of course the third thing that I've been coming to learn is you need a lot of space, because your village will continue to grow as you progress throughout it. Now, off to find this iron mine and then location. Thus begins the tale of Ragnar and his mighty village that is to be. The first day has come and gone. A storm looms and Ragnar has run throughout all day and night for the sheer and simple reason to map out this new terrain. As this new terrain is where the civilization will grow, and to first know the land before putting a place close to skeletons or other foes. This is essentially what had been uncovered within a day of running, and still no iron mine. By now, in my last edition of this experience and incarnation of Aska, I'd already had my first settlers and shelters built, fires going, but this time we aim for bigger things, so initially, the beginning will take a bit longer. So for you avid explorers, I do suggest you explore the land and see what is possible before laying down your roots. We have found our second set of Tree of Lives. I shall put down a marker for once. Oh, never mind. We've found our base location. What? Honestly, I swear, having an intention before a game gives you exactly what you want. Because I wanted a cave, and I always want these, but I was willing to sacrifice the Tree of Life for the mine. And it's just right there. Look at that. Right there. Oh my goodness. Now, the main thing to do, well, we're going to have to take out these wolfars. Yes, I know. I'm excited. I've been given exactly what I wanted. So, first of all, we have our mine. We have our Tree of Life right there. And here we have the coast, which means we can do a farming village very easily. We even have birch trees here and here, which will sustain us for our carpentry and more advanced woodwork. And then we can also plant forestry huts to remove all of these. The wolves are going to be a bit of a problem, at least initially. And every 3 summers, they do replenish, as far as I know. They come back to life. But by then, we'll be strong enough to take them out. I can even put guard towers around, just in case they do. The main thing now is to explore this area here. See what lurks here to make sure that there's nothing looming too close, and then we shall start with our settlement. Initially, starting out, what you really want is a lot of flax. So as you explore the map, pick up all of it that you can. For a good food source, there's always blueberries, at least until autumn. Everything else for now, apart from Jotun stones, which you can fill your inventory up with, is moot. The rest can come later, or better put, when we have our Viking Civilization on the ready, they can gather these things for us. And if you are keen on exploring this map to the full, I would suggest doing it in a straight line because it doesn't offer a great fog of war, and which makes it a bit more challenging. But for now that I have discovered my base location, it is time to get ready with an axe. And a pickaxe, and gather up all of my stones, and then from there we are ready for the next phase. And initially, everything is slow. This is why it's also helpful to enlist villagers rather than doing this by yourself. If you're lucky, the smaller Jotun stone pillars will offer you 2, while the bigger ones will give you up to 3, but usually only 2. But for the bigger ones, you of course need a bigger axe, which is easily done once you have your first workshop, which is very attainable. You can have this before spring, if you plan accordingly. What? Also, this is something I discovered in my last playthrough. There is a lake in this game, which is beautiful. This would also be an ideal place to build a civilization, rather than next to these. But if I'm building here already, I can expand into this over time. It's always good to keep Ragnar or Aska, to keep them 3/4 hydrated and fed. This ensures the greatest amount of stamina, especially when you don't have a cottage or a chieftain's hut yet, because that replenishes more stamina than a shelter ever will. For now, we near the end of the second day. And I'm in 2 minds. Do I continue exploring to make sure the area is safe and allocate my bedding in the correct way? Or do I go about and just build and then deal with the consequences afterwards? Because even a few meters in one direction or another do make a difference. Initially, inventory space-wise, you're not going to need seeds either. They are only good for a farm, and you can leave that up to your villagers. I'm going to choose the explorer aspect, rather. Mostly because I would prefer to build my base during the daytime, more for the scenic aspect than anything else. And have a look at that tree to the left of me. It looks like there's an eye and a smile with a nose on it. Yeah, look at that. Nope. Oh, yeah, got another wolf here. And now I'm glad I've done this. Because this is very, very close to where my base is. Very close. Yes, so, Wolfarden here, Wolfarden there. I'm gonna look around here. It might be better to start building off here. Although, here where the trees are, I can build the shelters and then build in this direction. Although, let me not be presumptuous. Let's see what's in this area. Another Wolfarden. Although, this one, I've come across this a few times in Aska, where there are certain ones that just don't exist. They're irrelevant. You know, and I've never seen it activate even after a few years, which is great. It's exactly what we want, because that means, for now at least, this side is safe. While to build here is going to be problematic, though I'm still going to put my shelters around here and give them the opportunity to fell all of these trees here. Mind you, this time round I'm going to build 20, maybe 40 shelters, and by, who knows, by the first winter we might have cottages up. We might not. Mostly, a small cemetery. Mostly, we might not have small cottages up because we want to make sure that the expansion of our village or city, as it's very quickly going to be, can be done so properly rather than cramming it all into one space. This is what I found with my last game. You know, I did things and it was nice, but by the end of it, I ended up needing to remove and then replace and rebuild because I didn't give myself enough space. And with such a big map, space is not an issue. You know, there's plenty of it, so feel free to make use of it. Just make sure there aren't that many enemies close by, so that your villagers don't constantly run into problems with them. And that is a big issue in this. It is the problems and how it affects the mood of your villagers and their health and their efficiency, essentially. Because this is what we want as a Viking civilization. We want to be efficient. And with efficiency, we can then go forth and slay that gigantic ice giant that destroyed our civilization before. You know, we're not just here to restart civilization. We are here with purpose. We are here for war. For that is the Viking way. Not war as in we want to destroy everything, but war for our way of life. Because to love something, you have to be willing to fight for it. As you can see, Ragnar's quite the philosopher at 4 in the morning. Great, so we've cleared a sufficient area. This time round, the main thing we are facing are wolf dens. There, and not there. We have a small cemetery here, and a large one over there. The spire... Over here, I didn't quite explore close enough, but there is another cemetery, if I'm not mistaken, or a small spire. And then over here somewhere is going to be the rest of the things, but that's fine. That can be far away from us. That is actually beneficial to what we want to create. The only downside is that if we do want to fight it, we either take our warband with us. Once we have our proud chieftain's hut, we can then bring a force of 3 extra warriors with us, and they can then help fight these other spaces. If that's not enough, we can always build a forward base where we can then bring other Vikings with us and put up guard towers and everything. You know, everything is possible. It just depends on how willing we are to put in the effort. There, we've entered a new day. All that's necessary for us now is to put down shelters in the Eye of Odin. And from there, we can get this process up and going as quickly as possible, because there are many Vikings that have no home after the slaughter from the ice giant that would love to come join us here, where we are ready to build a civilization. And as you can see, Ragnar is dressed in his fiery element. He is here to bring fire to the ice giant and melt its heart, mount its skull as a chieftain's hut, and rebuild Viking civilization so they can make their way into the rest of the world. T is an excellent button for picking up multiple things at once. It took me a long time to discover that one. Mostly because I didn't read what was on the screen. There, with our first shelter, we have our Eye of Odin coming in. I would recommend bringing big stones back, at least 2 of them for the Eye of Odin every time you harvest stone, just to save you an extra journey. For now, it is time for our first villager to come join us. Ha! My favorite is Halfdan. I've had him in a previous game, because Full Dan does not exist. So he will be the first. Also, we want somebody who is an efficient lodger, because he will be my first axe chopper. Now with our first villager underway, he will be taking care of these shelters that we have placed. However, to do so, he needs supplies, and for that, I need to chop a bunch of trees for him to do so. So this will take time. The main thing I need to do now, to make sure that we get to our 40 villages as I had anticipated for this year, is to continue providing Jotun stones for the Eye of Odin, and to continue providing them with the right mediums and materials to expand quickly. And I only have 4 Jotun stones, which means I don't have enough to summon my next villager. So I am off to find more, so we can. For this is really Ragnar's obligation here in Aska, to provide the right material for the betterment of the village. And that, for now, is Jotun stones. Welcome, Hilmar. You two have no shelter this night, for there are many shelters that are to be built. We'll bring in Bodil for its foraging potential. Now here's the challenging bit. To balance out chopping down trees and gathering Jotun stones. For too little in either of them will slow down the process in how quickly we can have more villagers join us. I want more villages, but I need a bigger axe. Yet to have that, we need both the woodcutters and the stonecutters' hut. So rather than more villages, I will take the time to chop some trees. Initially, our villagers have no supply to rope, at least until we have the workshop. So this falls to me to make sure they have it. This counts for the woodcutters, the stonecutters, and the shelter. And this is why we have taken the time to hunt for these things as we explored. And here we get to motivate them to do more. And rather than doing it one at a time, we should do it all at once. As best as we can. Now Aska joins us, and as Aska has joined us, it is time for me to find more Jotun stones, so that we can summon our next villager, and hopefully by then be ready for our workshop. And very quickly all of these shelters rise up and are ready to be placed. Yet at the same time, Ragnar recognizes the importance of a water collector, lest they dehydrate. For now, another village. Again, we prepare for winter, so we want someone to break stone yet is also sturdy when it comes to the winter side. There, our woodcutter, our stonecutter, they are both ready. Once we cut down those trees, the rest will be accessible to us. And by the end of this night, I might even let my villagers sleep a bit by providing them with an assigned shelter. Ragnar is a caring chieftain, yet a fair one. He will only let others sleep when he himself receives rest. To each his own, yet together. And Halfdan has finally come to ask for shelter for the night. And as you can see, they all have no homes but the forest. We could have them all work throughout the night, and that would be fair, for we would get much more done. At the same time, they will get more done in the long run if they are happy and sheltered. And this will be their homes for the foreseeable future. Yet for now, another villager. We shall take Hedvig. She is a proficient archer, but a bit slow in what she does, for she's been doing it for too long. In the dead of night, Ragnar works tirelessly so that he can have his upgraded axes and pickaxes so the Jotun stones can flow more freely. And just like so, we have bigger, stronger tools. We can relinquish the lower ones to any other Viking that wants a second-hand tool, and we can expect more Jotun stones, as long as we're patient enough to make our way through this abundance of stone. However, now, before we get ahead of ourselves, there are a few more things we need. One of them is to decide where we want some farmland, because this is going to become crucial in what we are doing here. And this field looks amply plenty, especially as this wolf den is not accessible. So this will be our farmland. Halvar joins us, and I have enough stones to accommodate another Viking. And by now you may have noticed that Ragnar has not slept a wink of an eye. Mostly because his focus and his resolve is clear. He has his eyes set on the ice giant, and he knows what his people need. So he continues tirelessly, knowing that rest will come when his body can do no more. After all, it is those that create civilizations that don't usually tend to live in them once they are created. Now Ragnar, a distant cousin of Ragnar, is resistant to the cold, and she loves the icy nights. And thus, she will be our 8th out of 40 for this year. We now have 2 consistent goals. One is to make sure we have enough Jotun stones. The second is to make sure we have our villagers assigned to things that we then don't need to do. Luckily, it takes this much longer for every villager to come into our village. And then eventually, it's going to be to build a cottage or the chieftain's hut, because it's taking all too long for our stamina to regenerate. And this is a problem. We will begin with our workshop, and there is somebody adequate here with the sufficient skill, Hilmar. Yet, for her to be efficient, we need to assign her tasks. And some of the most important ones are, first of all, for there to be a large axe and pickaxe. Yet for her to do these things, she also needs the relevant things that can get her there. Same with the rope, but the rope is only going to be sufficient in what she's doing once we have farms. Because our gatherers are not going to provide this, not sufficiently at least. And good to have one road maker made by her so that I don't need to do this at a later stage. Now, this gets a bit annoying because it causes my character to slide a lot. Ragnar can't really utilize this properly, and the best way to do is just to be on the angle of it and walk along, make sure to flatten it adequately, and it just becomes another little elevated road. It takes a little bit of effort, but this effort, once accomplished, is no longer an issue for a later time. And now that we have our first water well, it's time to replenish our water bag. Our workshop too also carries expansions, but for those we need a specific amount of certain things to accommodate that. Both of these huts being upgraded into the next tier. And to do this efficiently, we actually need bigger logs, but that is also easily attainable now that we have the bigger axe. And on the 4th night, Ragnar finally rested. Mostly to restore stamina, so Ragnar can be a little bit more efficient. For this Viking, everything has a purpose, For he does not just live for himself, he lives for others. As you can see, his stamina rises. But only briefly. A shelter only provides so much. Yet the fire is unfueled and empty. Luckily, during this time of year, it is not needed nor necessary. Yet what is needed and necessary are more shelters. Wilhelmina has joined us, and I have enough for another Viking. Ira shall join us. She shall be our first fisher. For eventually, when we have a clear path here, and we do actually, right between both of these wolf dens, we shall have our fisher and our dock and everything built around here. And then our Vikings have a new way of feeding themselves. I correct my earlier iteration of the amount of Jotun stones dropped. I just received 4 from this big one. I've never received this many from one before, so it is possible. Anything between 2 and 4. Rise of the 5th day. Soon the sun shall rise again. Our Vikings shall wake, at least those of a shelter. Those that don't have one, they've been working through the night. For they know the importance of creating so that they can have an easier life, eventually. All by their own effort. While Ragnar's in this hypnotic notion of chopping down trees, knowing what this leads to. The death of the ice giant.